I married my wife in March of 1998. That first year was pretty rocky. It was rough, as most marriages are. That first year can be rocky. And about 8 months in, my wife told me she was pregnant, and I was floored. I didn't know what to expect. I was 25 years old. I could barely take care of myself, let alone a wife, and thinking about having to take care of a child too. I just didn't know how I could do it. And I will tell you, when Haley was born in July of 1999, I think it saved our marriage. I really do. I think my wife and I, our purpose in life became a little bit different. It wasn't about us anymore. It was about this beautiful little girl, and I don't feel like I could have loved anything more than that little girl. And as the years went on, about 7 years later, we were gonna have our second child, and I loved Haley so much that I even questioned, like, how could I love another child as much as I love this little girl? So I honestly think that she's the glue that held our marriage together. She's the glue that made our family what it is today. Fast forward a little bit she's 13 years old. This is the winter of about 2012, and Haley had been homeschooled for about 3 years, and we wanted to put her back in high school to give her that high school experience, the dances, the football games, the friends, And she had some friends. She was playing competitive soccer at the time. It wasn't like she was just in the house, and so we put her back in school. And things just started getting a little weird with her. I felt like maybe she was just going through, the teenage years and trying to figure out who she was, and she had a best friend by the name of May. And one day, I'm playing basketball. I'm a huge basketball player. It's Saturday morning, I'm playing basketball, and I get a text from May, which I'd never received just a text from May before. And May said, "Hey, Mr. Jason, I need to talk to you. There's something wrong with Haley." And I'm like, "Is she okay?" And she said, "Well, not really." May just cut right to the chase, and she told me, Haley's been cutting. I'd never heard of cutting before. I didn't even know what it was. And so she took out her phone and she showed me a picture of what I suppose was Haley's arm. And she had razor blade cuts all over her arm. So we were living in Monterey, California. And so I don't know if you're familiar with the climate in Monterey, California, but it's fairly cool all the time, 60s, upper 50s. And so Haley always had a sweatshirt on. She always had pants on. And so I didn't notice it. And so the first thing in my mind was, how do I approach this without Haley feeling like May had violated her trust? Because obviously Haley was sharing with her, and obviously Haley didn't think that May would share with me. And so it just so happened the next day we were on a bike ride and the sun was out and it was pretty warm. Haley had a sweatshirt on and she complained about being hot. So I told her, "Why don't you take your sweatshirt off?" And when she did, we were riding, I saw the cuts on her arm. And when we got home, I asked her about those cuts, and she said that the cat had scratched her on the arm. And then I just said, "Those aren't cat scratches." And we started talking, and Haley was going through some things at school. She felt like she was being bullied and picked on. And so we talked through it, and I thought everything was good. And so we fast forward to February of the next year, and May called me up again. And she said, "I don't think Haley is okay. She's still cutting." And she sent me pictures, this time of Haley's legs and her arms, and she was still cutting. And so I did what I thought I would never do as a parent. Haley wasn't home, and I went through a room. I rifled through a room, and I went through everything I could find, and I found some notebooks with some really dark writing, drawings. There was people hanging and skulls, and I also found a couple notes in there talking about her intentions to end her life and whether or not she really needed to be here, and almost a plan. And at that point, I couldn't believe it. I felt blindsided, but I also felt like a failure as a father, because to me, this is a little girl I'd known for 13 years. I saw her every single day. How could I not notice this? How did I not see it? And when Haley came home, I confronted her, and my wife and I both, and she was devastated. She was so mad at us for going through her room. I had been advised to call the ER and take her into the ER immediately, but my wife and I felt like that wasn't the best thing to do. And so I called Military One Source, I called the first sergeant, you know, all the avenues and resources that we have. And my wife and I made the decision to just get her an appointment with a psychiatrist. We took her in, and Haley went through about a year of therapy there in Monterey. But my wife and I, we beat ourselves up for a long time, especially me. I just beat myself up. Like, you know, and all the signs, they tell us all the time, you know, there's these signs that you'll see and so on and so forth. But sometimes when it's you in that situation, like you're just blind to it. You're just oblivious because it's that, you know, this doesn't happen to me. Everybody else this happens to. And I start retracing all the things that I saw, and all of the markers and everything started to come together. It started to make sense. And I realized I had missed it. And I really did. I felt like a failure as a father. But after that year of therapy, she was doing pretty well. I found myself having a hard time with now being still dad and disciplining her, because I didn't want to bring her back into that depression or bring about that anxiety. And my wife was, you know, hey, I get it, Jason, but we still have to be parents. We still have to discipline her. And it was really tough for me. And so now Haley's 21 now, a complete 180. And the scariest thing about this, and the reason I like to tell this story is especially to parents out there when you have kids, when you talk to Haley today and ask her, you know, why were you so depressed? Why did you feel like that? What was it like? She'll tell you, I mean, home life was great. Mom and dad were great. There's no fighting at home. The craziest thing to me about all of this is when Haley was 13, it was trendy to be depressed. It was trendy. It was popular to have something wrong with yourself. And a lot of her friends were cutting. And she had convinced herself that she was depressed too. She had convinced herself that if everybody else feels like that, I must feel like that. And if it wasn't for May, there's a good possibility Haley wouldn't be here today. And so it's a tough story for me to tell, mostly because of my feelings of inadequacy as a father. It's a tough story to tell because I think about the fact that I could have lost what I felt was the glue to our family. It's a hard story for me to tell because I have two daughters that are behind her, both 12 and 14. And it's a hard story for me to tell because I know there's other parents out there right now that are probably going through it, have gone through it, or will go through it. But I will tell you, you got to be involved. You got to insert yourself. And sometimes you may feel like you're going to violate someone's trust or you're going to break a promise to someone. But I will tell you, you need to do it because everybody has a purpose on this planet. Everybody has a purpose in somebody's life. And I like to tell everybody, you mean everything to somebody.